Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining this LinkedIn Live event with Njord. My name is Frederik Pind, and I am the Managing Director of Njord. And in Njord, we work with ship owners and charters to help them make their vessels as efficient as possible through energy-saving technologies. So part of our job is actually to stay curious about the technologies out there today and also the technologies of tomorrow. And one of the commonly acknowledged ways to keep your vessel as efficient as possible is through proper hull management and cleaning. The fact of the matter is that there is a lot of different options out there today. Anything from the many different coatings to ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, to ultrasound, and then just the practice of having a strategy around regular cleaning of your hull. So we want to deep dive into the different options today to explore what's up, what's down, what works, what doesn't. And we have invited, I dare to say, quite a hefty panel of industry experts to join us for that conversation today. If you are also curious about hull management and cleaning of the hull, keeping your hull as clean as possible to have as efficient vessel as possible, then you're in luck, because what we try to do on these LinkedIn Live events is to have as much audience participations as possible. That means that you will, throughout this event, be able to post questions to the panelists, and then we'll try to cover as many questions as possible throughout. You can already start typing in your questions now as leaving a comment in this LinkedIn event, and then we'll try to go through the questions as we go along through the event. Another way that we are trying to get audience in to participate is through a poll that we have set up for this specific event. So we will now actually ask all of you to go in and answer the question that we have set up for this event specifically, which is, what is the most effective method for maintaining a clean hull? The way that you can answer this poll is either by taking a secondary device, such as your phone, scan the QR code, and then you'll be taken straight to the questionnaire or the poll. Or another way you can do it is to open a secondary tab in your browser, type in menti.com, and then type in the code as stated in the top of the screen here, 85190790, and then answer the question there. This is a completely anonymous poll, and it's a way for us to assess where is our audience currently when it comes to effective methods of maintaining a clean hull. And we will revisit the results of the poll at the end of this event today. When you go in, you'll be presented with six different answers that you can choose from. One being applying a non-biocidal advanced coating system. 2, frequent manual inspections and cleanings as needed. 3, using biocidal anti-fouling coatings. 4, installing onboard cleaning technologies such as ROVs. 5, using an ultrasonic anti-fouling system. And then 6, a combination of 2 or more of those methods. So as an audience, please either grab your secondary device, scan the QR code, and take the poll, or open a secondary tab, go to menti.com, and then use the code 85190790 and answer the question accordingly. We're looking very much forward to see what you have come up with. Okay, that being said, then it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce to you the panelists that we have for our live event today. And we'll start with Philippos. Philippos, he comes from GIT Coatings, and Philippos, he is head of market strategy and vessel performance, and has over a decade of experience in marine coatings. He also masters in product and system design engineering, and a master's in marketing and communication. Very big welcome to the event today, Philippos.
Thank you, Frederik. Welcome.
Next up is Ulf. Ulf is the founder of Hansen Development with over 30 years of experience in sustainable biofouling management. Previously held senior roles in iTech AB, Clean Robotics, and Hempel. Very big welcome to the call today, Ulf.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be in the panel.
Of course, our pleasure. Next up, we have Darren. Darren, he is both the founder and CEO of SoniHull and has more than 15 years of experience in business leadership. He holds an experience in both private and corporate sectors. A very big welcome to the event today, Darren.
Thanks, Frederik. I look forward to receiving some questions throughout.
Yes, me too. And then we have Inder. Inder is also the founder and CEO of Alicia Bots with over 10 years of experience in marine engineering and energy efficiency. Previously founded Test Solution, which was later acquired by private equity firm. And also for you, Inder, a very big welcome to the event.
Thanks, Frederik. Thanks for having me again.
And then last but not least, we have Jonas. Jonas joins and is currently the client director of Njord. And Jonas has more than 14 years of experience in shipping, latest in the role as CEO of Sea Lean Ship, which is a biofouling management service company. A big welcome to the call as well to you, Jonas.
Thanks, Frederik. Looking forward to the discussions.
Good stuff. This is the lineup of the panelists. I think I dare to say that we have quite a number of years of experience within the field of hull management. So I'm hoping for a very good conversation and dialogue around this. Just a gentle reminder to the audience, you are welcome to already now start posting questions to these gents if you have something that you would like us to address. And for now, we'll start with an introduction of the various companies that they represent before we jump into some of the pre-prepared questions we have for the panel. We'll start by an introduction by Philippos on GIT, please.
Thank you, Frederik. So GIT Coatings is a marine coatings company based in Canada, founded in 2017. We are focusing on sustainable hull and propeller coatings based on graphene. Graphene is a material, is a backbone of our hard foul release technology. It is a hybrid patented technology which combines what I would call the best of both worlds, meaning the smoothness, the low friction effect, and the foul release property of the soft foul release coatings like silicone, with the mechanical durability and the resistance to cleaning of the more hard coatings. So how GIT Coatings is different, we are basically driving a proactive approach to hull management by integrating our low friction hard foul release coating, which is biocide free, with the state-of-the-art grooming technologies that are proactively removing fouling at the very early stage of slime. And this, of course, prevents the development of the harder fouling with no paint damage and no thickness loss. And this combination is offering a low friction out of dock, which is maintained during the service life. So we have an always clean hull, of course, with no discharges to the environment. A key focus area for us is supporting our customers during the implementation of a hull grooming program over the service life of the vessel. And this starts, of course, from the risk assessment on a vessel level by fouling risk assessment based on the vessel's operating profile, which basically defines the need and frequency of inspections and cleanings for the vertical sides and flat bottom. We also help in the selection of the grooming technologies based on a more holistic evaluation of the operational feasibility and the limitations, and also the techno-economical aspects. And once we have the grooming program in place and the crew is trained to use the robot on board, our focus is on supporting the vessel in service with fouling warnings when the vessel is idle in high fouling pressure waters, and also with insights and recommendations from inspection reports, combined, of course, with vessel performance data, so we can adjust the grooming program. So we believe that this is the most cost-effective solution and also most sustainable in terms of emissions to air and also emissions to sea, because we don't have any leaching of biocides or other toxic substances to the environment. So there's no risk for water pollution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philippos. That was a good introduction. And don't worry, as an audience, we'll also ask Philippos to reflect later on what are the potential downsides or risks of using this product. So it's not necessarily all good, but we'll get back to that. Thank you very much for a very thorough introduction of GIT. Then we'll jump straight to Ulf to give an introduction of Hansen Development, please.
Yes, welcome again to everybody. It's a pleasure to be part of the panel, and thanks again for the invitation. Our tagline in Hansen Development is basically global expertise for sustainable management. It's a headline or it's a tagline, but what we normally started with 5 years ago is supporting strategically, starting in Scandinavia, customers on their route towards globalization, strategic globalization, and it developed into direction sustainability and shipping as well. So our focus is supporting technologies which are making the world a little bit better, the marine world, of course, having the economic aspects in focus as well. So we do not want to be seen as sustainability freaks, only discussing environment. Shipping has to be profitable. And nowadays we have not only customers in Scandinavia, we have them in Singapore as well, in Canada and United States. And as we are partly doing interim management as well, we are having modernization projects, we are having M&A projects, we do change management, we do sales and marketing, but are all under the umbrella of sustainability and profitability and growth. And what is a little bit a new area is as well regulatory, because I think we'll discuss it later on as well, is that we have to, basically see each and every aspect of the shipping world. Their regulatory is a growing issue, but an opportunity as well. And that is describing more or less our service portfolio to the marine world.
Thanks a lot for the introduction. We're looking forward to get your inputs on the questions as we progress. Then I'll move onwards to Darren to introduce SoniHull, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. SoniHull was founded 17 years ago, so we've been in the market quite a long time now. And we're located in the UK, headquartered with our main operations and R&D center in Abu Dhabi. And we just recently opened offices in Singapore and the USA. We're installed in over 4,000 vessels globally. That's on hulls, niche areas, propulsion, cooling. Always on the dry side, protecting or preventing biofouling in the first instance. And that's what we're about, really. We're part of a strategy to help fleets decarbonize. And we're one part of that strategy. We're not stupid enough to believe that we are the only solution to helping fleets get to net zero. It is a collaboration. And with our R&D center in Abu Dhabi, we can do real-time experiments and changes that our clients want to make our product better, making it more efficient and more applicable for both maritime and industrial applications.
Thank you very much, Darren, for that introduction as well. And then last but not least, let's jump to Inder to introduce Alicia Bots.
Thanks for having me here. And I'll just continue from what Philippos started by introducing hull grooming. We at Alicia Bots, we were founded in 2020, and we started with building hull grooming robots for use on ships. These are four-wheel drive magnetic crawling robots for mild grooming, and we positioned as a maritime robotics and operation.
Thanks a lot, Inder. Thank you all for the introductions across the line. So I'm definitely left with the feeling now that we have what we need in terms of expertise on the call. I think also the industry has a lot to choose from. It almost sounds too good to be true in terms of all the different things that they can do to the vessels to improve the hull performance. So we'll start with the first question, which is basically the challenges. If we have that many options out there, then what is the biggest challenge that a ship owner faces today when it comes to maintaining a clean and efficient hull and choosing from the different options out there? Just short and sweet, what are the biggest challenges here? Let's start with you, Philippos.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Frederik. The hull management concept, I think it's a very broad term with many operational, technical, and of course commercial considerations and implications. And as you said, I mean, there's no silver bullet. There's no magic coating that has been identified as the universal, let's say, anti-fouling strategy that meets all trade requirements. And, even if you select a high-performance coating, many factors will come into play. The paint specification, the application, unexpected idle days, high fouling pressure waters. So after the dry dock, in many cases within 1 or 2 years, and depending on the trade, you end up with significant power increase due to the biofouling penalty. So I believe in, being a paint maker, we also can see that there is a gap between what we promise and what is the reality of the unpredictable trade. And this is where cleaning comes in. For me, there are two main challenges with cleanings. The first one is that typically cleaning is done reactively when we have hard fouling and the performance has already dropped. And the second is that we clean coatings that are not designed to be cleaned. So we have self-polishing and defoulings. And after a number of cleanings, we see that we have less biocidal content, increased roughness, and then the barnacles are very easy to penetrate. And you also have excessive discharges to the environment. So the result is always that we have a paint that is damaged and removed, so there's no defouling property. And we also are releasing toxins into the water. At the same time, and this is related to the first challenge, at the same time, I can see that there's no standardization, there's no, let's say, holistic approach to serve as a guidance to ship owners when it comes to planning and maintaining and clean hull on a ship-specific basis, looking at the whole cycle, even before the dry docking, in terms of how we select the right hull coating for the trade and the vessel, what is the right cleaning regime that is compatible with the operation and the coating that is being used, and also the monitoring, which is not only about performance, but also the condition monitoring of the hull. And just to close with a positive note, I think that we are now, even with these challenges, we are seeing improvements in this area. We have the biofouling management guideline soon to be revised. We have two standards, ISO standards, that are in progress for cleanings. And we are seeing that grooming as a practice, this gentle, proactive cleaning of slime on a regular basis, what we are seeing is that this is emerging as a prevention method that being used more and more by owners. But this requires, the right coatings to be in place, coatings that are designed to be groomed, and also what is very important is for these coatings to be biocide free so that we don't have water pollution.
Thanks a lot, Philippos. Some good notes here. The fact that it's, one of the challenges, the commercial versus the technical evaluation. Once reality hits, so the actual trading pattern of the vessel, and then I think you touch upon something very interesting here around the gap between the promise and reality, and that's where cleaning comes in. But then let's touch up on that as we go along. I'll basically pose the same question to you, Inder. I would like to hear your reflections on the main challenges of the ship owners here.
Yeah, I think last 8 to 10 years after working with vessel performance data, one of the key challenges we noticed is that unfouling contributes to 70% of all the excess fuel that is consumed by a ship. And with these numbers, around 37 million metric ton of fuel is getting wasted each year. And then there are the regulatory compliances which are indeed growing with the advent of CII coming in. Ship owners have to take some proactive solution cutting down any of this excess fuel consumption. And I think that's where the practices like grooming combined with better paints and other solutions are a key answer to some of these issues.
Thanks, Inder. So I think same question basically, Darren. Your reflection here on the biggest challenges for the ship owners.
Thanks, Frederik. Yeah, there are many challenges, to be fair. Look, some end users are not quick to embrace change and new technologies such as SoniHull. The challenge is the variability of regulation. In water, cleaning is allowed, in some ports, not in others. Some places require capturing materials, others don't. It's very hard and costly to plan, right? And of course, the answer is to prevent the growth in the first place. And that's where we circle around to the first point. We all have to embrace new technology.
That was nice. Thanks, Darren. Short and sweet. Let's take it to Ulf for the final view on this question, please.
Yes. I'm not sure if I can do it as short, but because it's very complex. And on the positive note, I think we all should recognize that we have never had such a momentum in the maritime industry like now, having sustainability on the agenda, having emissions on the agenda, having leaching biocides or other ingredients into water and into air. So I think, first of all, on a positive note, that's not only driven by CII and other regulations. And that is, I think, the main challenge is that owners, ship managers and charterers, they should see this trend as opportunity and not as a threat. A lot of people I'm talking to, they are still seeing it as, oh, I have to invest and there's nothing in it for me, and so on and so forth. And I think, and this is a nice trend during the last years, is that charterers and owners, tonnage providers, ship managers, they are talking together. They are using the expertise of some NGOs, be it Njord, be it Mercer McKinney, and so on and so forth. The biggest challenge is, in my opinion, to select the right technology for the right vessel and trade and water temperatures and so on. So, but the expertise is growing within the decision makers. So, on a positive note, trend is good. On the challenging note, I think there's still a way to go in terms of knowledge and discussions going on and combining technologies.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ulf. I mean, key takeaway here, selecting the right technology for the right vessel, the right trades, etc. I think that was a good mention here. So I mean, having gone through these challenges, so I dare to say this is actually the challenges seen from a supplier perspective. Jonas, I'm super curious to hear. You represent, you could say, a good practice in general, a bit of what Ulf is actually alluding to here. And you also represent, you could say, to some extent, the voice of the owners. So what is it that you hear when you interact with owners and charters and they talk about hull maintenance? What are the challenges that they highlight specifically towards you?
Thanks, Frederik. A lot of good answers already. So I think some of the main ones is what does good look like? A bit as Ulf was just saying, how do you mix and match to get the right solution for your vessel, specifically for that trade and speeds, the paint and so on. And then one of the main ones I also hear a lot is no one is really sharing. So there's a lack of sharing data. So some are sitting on a lot of data on how is my fleet performing. Some paint manufacturers are sitting on how is their coatings performing. There are some service are sitting on other kind of data on how often do they see that they need to maintain, or when they vessels, how does it look like? Pellet cleaning, CTS, versus other niche areas. So everyone is sitting on a small piece of the pie, but it's not being put together. And I think that's an issue that is being discussed more and more. Some are trying to move on data sharing, but as in everything, we are very protective of our data. So no one really wants to share, but solve a lot of things if data was shared, because I'm quite sure that the market is sitting on the knowledge needed to solve this in a good way, but it's not being shared.
Okay, thanks, Jonas. Super good point, and interesting comment around having one point of truth where everything is gathered in terms of data, and then the willingness to share, which is quite important here. Super good. Before we move on to the next question, I want to thank the audience for starting to post in questions. We will definitely go through some of them because they're really, really good, and I think very, very relevant for the discussion we're having here. We'll just take one more round with the panelists with a one prepared question from my side. And now it's time to both be optimistic, but also a bit realistic and a bit apply a bit of a criticism towards the individual products that you actually represent. Because what we want to hear about now is that each of the technologies that we have represented here on the call today, they definitely come with the benefits of different areas when applied. But there, I would dare to say, likely also some potential shortcomings. So let's just take a round to talk about potentials, benefits, and then also potential shortcomings of the different products that you represent today. Darren, let's start with you and ultrasound, please.
I think one of the biggest shortcomings from our perspective is that we've been around for 17 years, but really it's only been the last 5-60 years where there's been massive traction in relation to ultrasound and SoniHull. And I think that's because some people are embracing change and technology. So we had to start small, and us doing propellers, cooling, and now we're starting to do hulls. So scaling up to what's required is a challenge and a shortcoming of the business, and we're having to invest heavily. And I think the biggest thing that we've learned is that we can do most things while vessels are in the water without dry docking, but we have to plan a little bit more in relation to full hull installs. So getting a full hull has to be done in dry dock due to the hull's makeup, etc. And also takes a bit of time running cable. So I think that's the biggest shortcoming for the product is that if we're doing full hulls, needs a lot of planning through our naval architects and is it's time critical to be fair. Other than that, I think we're quite a simple technology. We keep it simple because you don't need to complicate things in life. And I think that's the best way forward.
Great, thanks, and well done in reflecting on some of the challenges here and deep diving on that there. And you don't need to overcomplicate your life. I think it's just a general good take.
Definitely not.
Here. So let's move on to Ulf. I would like to hear your perspective. That's more on the coding side of things. I mean, what do you see as the main benefits, but also the potential shortcomings when it comes to coatings?
Yeah. I'm presenting a little bit more the traditional coatings industry today. So basically, we are talking anti-fouling. There are biocidal anti-fouling. There are non-biocidal anti-foulings. There are low biocidal anti-foulings. So the good thing with anti-foulings is they're easy to apply. It is in the normal docking cycle. They give a lot of flexibility as well. The market gives an overview of silicone coatings as well, and so on. So there are a lot of opportunities, and the number of vessels being coated today with premium coatings, meaning decision makers invest into premium coatings, is going higher, much higher than, let's say, 10 years ago. The downside, of course, is on the traditional coatings is, of course, the biocidal aspect. And if you are running around in the street in Hamburg or in London or something like that, and you say biocides, it is basically negative. But I think, first of all, I'm not here to defend biocides in all forms, but there are differences within the biocides as well, because they're low concentrational and high concentrational. There are against hard fouling and soft fouling and so on. And I think the long-term target should be to reduce the intake of biocides into water. But on the other side, not too fast, because we have to still combine technologies to each other. And we have to see a very important point that biocides are responsible for a clean hull as well. Not always 100%, but they have a huge impact into the drag resistance of a hull, meaning if we have a clean hull via a good functioning premium coating, then that means less emissions to air, which basically is sustainable again. So I think the big challenge is here to balance the biocide intake and the emission reduction, or the other way around. So the downside is, I think we have to discuss deeper the biocidal issue, and a good thing would probably be to lower the biocide intake step by step and parallel to alternative technologies to, at the end, in 15 or 20 years from now, have a biocide-free world, hopefully.
Okay, so finding the right balance currently between the concentration of biocide versus the emission reduction that it actually produces that particular thing, and then over time phase it out completely. Interesting point. Thanks for sharing, Ulf. Inder, I want to jump to you with the same question.
What we see now is like quite a lot of ship owners, they are adapting to new technologies such as ours. The only way we can achieve a truly proactive hull cleaning is to have an equipment which is on board the ship. And in order to do that, you need to ensure that the equipment is portable, it's easy to use, it's user-friendly. And so that is one of the primary requirements. And I think some of the disadvantages also is like, robotics is quite a new topic when it comes to the ship's crew, and they need to be trained with these equipment. But I think in the last couple of years, we've seen the ship's crew being more and more familiar to use of such technologies. And in the next few years, what we probably are going to see is a combination of various technologies and like biocide-free paints, being more and more deployed on board vessels.
Thanks, Inder. I like your statement, easy to use and user-friendly. It also goes very much in line with what Darren mentioned in terms of make the the technology is simple, not complex. There's definitely a point around that, and I can share that the complexity around the different energy saving technologies out there today vary quite a lot. And if it's complex to implement, there's at least some ship owners who are reluctant to go in that direction. Philippos, same question from your side. What are the upsides and also potential downsides of using the GIT coatings?
Yes, I will start with the advantages. First of all, we're talking about the hydrodynamic effect of the coating after the application. So we have low friction, have immediate power savings after the application compared to the conventional defouling paints. This is very important to look at the coating as an energy saving technology. The second one is that the out-of-dock performance is maintained with minimum degradation over time by using a hull grooming program. Okay, so there's no disruption in the operation, and also replacing the need for divers, which is very, very important. Of course, it's a biocide-free coating, which means no water pollution after the repeated cleanings, compared to the self-polishing defouling paints with biocides. And of course, during application, we have less VOC content. We're talking about 3% compared to 30 to 40% from the conventional defouling. So overall benefits, we're talking about the low friction effect, the maintenance with the always clean hull, and the fact that we have less emissions to sea. Now, on the challenging part, in most operating profiles, the coating requires grooming. Okay, so a grooming program needs to be in place. This means that we need to have proper engagement and involvement from the crew and commitment by the owner in order to maintain and really implement and follow up on the program. Because looking at the maturity of the robotic technologies, what I would say is that we are not there yet in terms of a fully, let's say, autonomous solution. We also have operational and technical limitations. We all know that. For some vessels, it's very difficult to allocate, the needed time in port or in anchorage. Some of the solutions cannot cover the full hull area, as the flat bottom cannot be cleaned in many cases. But what we are seeing, and we were also at the SMM exhibition a few weeks ago, what we are seeing is that the robotic technologies are growing and maturing. More and more ship owners are doing trials. And currently the offerings can vary from in terms of being in transit on a port, the crew, the level of the crew involvement, the coverage of the areas, and also what is very important is the reporting and integration capabilities.
Thanks, Philippos. And I think a super good point you bring up here in terms of there's a difference between, first of all, traditional cleaning and then the need for grooming and the statement around that the different coatings actually requires ongoing grooming. And this is where robotics kicks in, where you could say that we're not fully there yet in terms of capabilities, but it is a growing utilization that we're seeing in the market currently. Thanks, gents. Very well done in listing up both pros and cons around the different technologies that you represent today. So the natural next question is then, how, as a ship owner, do you decide which approach is actually the right one for you to take? And I actually think we have a question also on that in the chat already. So it leads very well into the last question, Jonas, that I'm going to ask you. If I'm a ship owner, between all these different options out there, how do I set my strategy and how do I set my approach towards proper hull maintenance?
Yeah, thanks, Frederik. So I think a lot of it comes down to communication. You have to talk to different suppliers. So you have to talk to the paint manufacturers. They will normally recommend based on trade, the speeds, salinity, temperatures, these kind of things, idle times that are expected. And then they will suggest a coating for the vessel. And then I also believe you should be talking to service providers or people that are providing technologies on how should you utilize it. And there should be a common discussion regarding, together with the coating you select, how best to maintain it. So that's basically the basic things you should do before doing anything. And then I would say the most important thing, which is, at least by experience I've seen, is the biggest issue is that you need to have a plan. So most do not even have a plan for, okay, so now this vessel is going into dock, and then for the next 5 years, I'll have this coating. How am I going to keep an eye on it?
Is there a
Keeping an eye on
tendency of having a
performance,
vessel
or-
by vessel approach here? So okay, the next vessel we have dry docking is in 4 months. Let's look at that, and then for the remaining vessels in the fleet, we'll take it as it comes, basically.
So, but right, if you follow what the regulation is trying to do, is that you should, for a vessel, you should have a biofouling management plan, and then you should have an overall biofouling management strategy. You're saying, how are you going to do this? It's encompasses a coating. It might encompass a solution, maintenance solution on board, or at least a plan for how you're going to keep an eye on it. And then you have different options. But I'll say the main thing you have to do is have discussions and communication, and then create a plan and then follow the plan. If everyone does that, then they won't have any issues.
Thanks, Jonas. I get it in terms of communication and assessing all the different options out there. I would imagine there's quite some complexity, again, knowing that the landscape of the different options out there is quite wide, but at least getting that done and then adding it into an overall plan where you can then start to execute on that plan accordingly. Thanks a lot. That was it in terms of the plans questions we had. Now we'll jump into some of the questions from the audience, and we'll start by this question here that comes across from Jonas. Does the panelists, experts anticipate more regulation or regulatory commitment from IMO in regards to biofouling invasive species in the future, as currently it is merely guidelines that are in place? So let's take a quick round on this. Who would like to give it a first cut on this?
I guess you'd like, Frederik.
Yeah, okay. There are several. So Darren, let's start with you.
Okay, everything takes a bit of time within the maritime world. I mean, we sit on the IMO group for close fouling, which discusses the spread of invasive species. And they do a lot of great work, but it takes time. But I mean, the good thing about it is that the IMO, BIMCO, etc., are all discussing these strategies moving forward. And there will come a date, hopefully in the not too distant future, where they actually bring in something which is more regulatory rather than a guideline. And by that way, when we're talking about biofouling management, people can proactively look at what they're doing, understanding what the regulations are, rather than just adhering to a guidance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Good answer here, Darren. Ulf, I would like to hear your perspectives on this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, Darren is spot on. I mean, and the short answer is there will be more regulatory happening in the future, especially via the IMO and different bodies as well. And again, I think we should see it as an opportunity, because when we talk to people today, they in CII and the reporting as such, they see it as, oh, I have to do it, and that takes a lot of time, and so on and so forth. In the moment, stakeholders see it as opportunity to operate, as a headline, more greener vessels than before. They will position themselves into the market as well, because charterers and people, banks, even the finance sector, they are looking really forward to make the whole cluster or the whole segment, the marine industry, greener. So yes, especially in regards to invasive species and collection, after grooming and cleaning, there will be coming more.
So what I'm hearing here is the panel expects that we will see more regulation in the area, and instead of seeing it as a challenge, you should actually see it as an opportunity, and then look forward to how this regulation can help you bring your commercial viability forward for your fleet. Okay, thanks, Ulf. Then I want to pose this question, the next question here, across to Philippos and to Inder. So we'll take another question up here. This one comes from Søren. To all the experts, well done, Jens, that's you. Do you expect an impact of air bubble hull lubrication, so ALS systems, on fouling, positive or negative? The interesting part is here to hear it from Inder, your perspective, from an ROV perspective, and then afterwards from Philippos for a more hard coding perspective. Impact of ALS, Inder?
I think, with regards to air lubrication, believe that, it has it has a positive impact, at least on the underwater resistance, and it does help in reducing fuel consumptions for sure. See, with regards to the impact on hull fouling, hull fouling is mainly when the vessel is stationary, and when the vessel is stationary, you're not really using air bubble hull lubrication, I believe. So I'm not sure that how much impact it has on the hull fouling itself, but it's definitely a positive technology when it comes to reducing fuel consumption. It's a more fuel efficient.
Okay, got it. Thanks. And Philippos, from your perspective, the impact of ALS and also the combination with hard coats.
Yes, that's a good question. This requires a more technical investigation. It seems to be a synergistic effect rather than a negative effect. There was also a recent study that was published by a vendor of ALS and a paint maker, which is publicly available and you can access. But in principle, I think we need to really looking into these opportunities, combining technologies, hull management technologies, and ways that we can improve the performance by combining one or two energy saving technologies. I'm very positive on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Good reflections here across from both of you. Then we'll move on to the next question before we will slowly start to jump into the poll result and have a reflection on that. So maybe just a bit of a reflection on the earlier question here and the risk of potentially repeating ourselves, Jonas. The question here from Deepak, how can a commercial vessel operator adopt active hull cleaning strategy in order to optimize the vessel performance? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks. It's more of having a discussion, of course. The main issue normally comes contractually, where owner, charters, operator saying, I'm not the one that's supposed to do this, it's you. That's normally the pitfall. People goes into what is the charter contract, and then I will follow that no matter if it hurts me or not, which is not a good way of looking at it. In my opinion, if I was operator, I would just say, I'm going to do this, and then I will talk to whoever else is involved and then tell them what is the plan. And I would basically start by just doing inspections on a regular basis. You can have ROVs in ports. In most ports by now, you can get inspections in the port, either by divers or by ROV. And then based on what you see on the inspections, I would then plan for maintenance. Okay. But the first comes into making the decision to actually do it, because the pitfall is going into charter contract discussions.
Yes. So the commercial incentive here, and maybe back to one of the early stages around that, there's both the commercial and technical evaluation of choosing the right hull maintenance approach here. Okay. Thanks, Jonas. We'll take one last question that has just come in. I think this one is very good and is targeted specifically to you, Darren. So let's get your thoughts on that, and then we'll take a look at the poll results afterwards. So this one comes from Chris. Chris, his question is around conventional ultrasound seems limited in terms of protection range from a single transducer. Lots of transducers, control panels, cabling, and maintenance required. How is this overcome on larger vessels?
Yeah, that's a very good question, but it's also from our perspective about knowing the capabilities of ultrasound. And if you speak to Professor Steve Dixon at Warwick University, just by us, he calls ultrasound spooky science. There's no rhyme or reason why it works, but it does. And by having our own R&D center, we can actually mimic up what is the requirements for a full hull. We've done full hulls, and you're absolutely right. It can only be done in dry dock because you do have to run cables, but we can also draw power locally. And a transducer operates in a radius of about 7 to 10 meters, depending on what it's protecting. So we are reducing the amount of transducers down. But let's look at that in isolation. When a vessel's stationary, we're probably one of the only things that will actually keep a vessel clean. And they're more stationary. So, that's a bit of a challenge for us. It's also a challenge for the end user because they've got to adopt strategies, because a lot of these vessels are stationary for longer periods of time. We are working on it. It's more than concept. We're now installed, and it will only get better.
Okay, Thanks. Interesting, and will be interesting to follow accordingly. Darren. Spooky science. I like that naming convention. Thanks a lot, Darren. Okay, I think that's it in terms of the questions we take in from the audience. Then let's take a look at the poll, where people they have passed in their views on what they believe is the most effective way of doing hull maintenance. So I'll just ask for the poll results to be pulled up. There we go. Okay. See, this was slightly the anticipation here, and maybe some people they've been listening in throughout, and then they have made their choice afterwards. But there's a clear overweight here in terms of that it's a combination of two or more methods, and we've talked quite a lot about that in terms of what are the ups and downs and how to distinguish between which are the right ones to do here. But when we then look at the others, then I think the interesting part is that the runner-up, even though way lower on the chain here, is using biocide anti-fouling coatings. Ulf, you talked a bit about that, and then the next one here is actually the ultrasonic anti-fouling system. Ulf, looking at this result here, I mean, what are your reflections on the poll that we have received in here?
I think it is in a way fantastic, because I hope this poll will basically mean that people will have a look into alternative technologies. Although I do not doubt the poll, but if you see the actual market nowadays, then still a lot of people, of course, use antifoulings and biocidal antifoulings and silicone coatings, which is okay, because I mean, liquid coatings will remain even long-term part of solving the biofouling puzzle. But I think it's very positive here, because if people really see the combination as number one, I think then we are on a nice track.
Yeah, thanks for good reflections here. Philippos, your reflections on the poll that's come in?
This is an indication of where we are today. I think we are in a transition in terms of the hull management practices and the knowledge that is emerging, as you mentioned, Jonas, across the industry, and also in terms of the regulations and the standards. And it's an indication of the fact that there's no silver bullet, and there is a diverse mix of technologies for the future. I would like to go back to what one of us said about being curious and really try new things, because the future is now. But I also want to highlight and emphasize the need for proper planning. We had this discussion before, and also even if you choose one of these approaches or a combination, we also need to invest in planning and look at the process from a more holistic view, and not only when the problem arises.
Yeah, thanks, Philippos. Some good reflections here, and also it's an instant picture of what we see now, but also in an emerging and developing market as well. Darren, your thoughts on the poll?
Yeah, no, it's kind of pleasing for our industry in ultrasonics, because we certainly see at SoniHull that the amount of inquiries and drawings that get marked up for full hull installs by our naval architects is increasing, and the fact that we're scaling extraordinarily shows that people are accepting this technology almost as standard. And I think that's the main point about this, is that this part of the biofouling management plan is looking at while the vessel's moving whilst it's stationary. We're definitely part of both of those aspects, and the only part really of the one that's stationary. But I still think a collaborative approach is a way to move forward. So it's not just one system. There is not one silver bullet, but we are really happy to be part of it.
Yeah, thanks. Inder, your reflections on the poll here?
As the poll rightly points out, that it's going to be a combination of technologies, which definitely is going to be an advantage. Like if you see ROVs for that matter, there are certain restrictions where magnetic rolling ROVs cannot reach niche areas. Particularly, that's where technologies like ultrasound come into play. But at the same time, like in terms of when it comes to proactive mechanisms, I think ROVs they bring in a lot of advantage. And if I see how the company has developed in the last 6 months, there's been, significant number of customers which has shown interest in ROV technologies, and even our research and development has actually, improved from semi-autonomous to now introducing fully autonomous systems. So definitely, I'm sure in the next 2 years, the market will come up with growing technologies in combination with these.
Thanks, Inder. Then last but not least, Jonas, your reflections on this one here. I think one key concern maybe I could also just take a stab at before I hand it over to you is when you look at then a combination of two or more methods, evaluating what actually worked well and what worked best, I guess, also becomes quite tricky. But your reflections on that and the poll in general, Jonas?
Well, I think it's as you mentioned, an expected reply. And it is seeing more and more. I remember not that many years ago when BIMCO started their in-water standards, they also did a survey on this, and that was heavily on specific coatings and not so much anything else. So if this is a reflection on that, it's definitely moving in the right direction. But it is understanding which combinations, and it's also been said, it's not just one. It's most likely several that needs to be combined.
Okay. Thanks, gents. Thanks for the reflections, and a very big thank you to the audience for posting in with their answers on this poll here. I think very, very interesting to see the result, and I would also say a positive note on seeing the combination feature, but it also does underline the complexity of choosing the right technology here. That actually closes up our event for today. I have the pleasure of trying to recap some of the key highlights of the session before we close it off completely. Some of the notes I've taken today is that when selecting the proper way forward in terms of hull maintenance, it should be both a commercial and technical evaluation. The trading pattern has a big say as well. And I think what was one of the good key highlights was that there tends to be a gap between the promise made by the suppliers and the potential reality. And this is where cleaning and or grooming can come in and play a role, simply because it will all vary down to the trading pattern of the vessel and be dependent on the trading pattern accordingly. We talked about that the panel here definitely believes that there is a new regulation and guidance on its way, and we should not see that as an obstacle. We should actually see that as an opportunity and embrace that regulation when it comes into place, see how you can move that into a commercial upside for yourself. We talked about the issue of that there is no one place where data is shared and data can be accessed in terms of the different solutions and how they work. I think looking at the poll, seeing that the audience believe that it should be a combination, there is this trick around testing multiple things at the same time, gaining your own insights, and then potentially delaying your upsides of the different options because you need to do those trials first, is something that's worthwhile taking note of. There was a good point around needing to balance the biocide concentration versus the emission reductions that is actually achieved here and now, and then over time fade out the biocide concentration. We talked about that technology should be easy to use and user-friendly. I think that was also a super good point here, because if it's not, then it's likely not being adopted to the scale that we would want. And then the whole point around being aware of the fact that there's a difference between actual cleaning and then the activity of hull grooming as well. And then what I would like to just highlight for the last two main points is we need to see much more communication, assessment of all the different options, and then make a plan, make a biofouling management plan for your fleet to ensure you're not caught by surprise and you don't do vessel by vessel assessments on what happens next. And then last but not least, embrace new technology. We wouldn't call it spooky science. We just called it plain technology. And there is no silver bullet. So embrace the different new technologies of today and tomorrow and see what fits well with your fleet. I think that would be my concluding remarks for this event today. So by that, I want to say thank you to the panelists for joining in today. Thank you very much for sharing your insights and your expertise. A big thank you to the audience for both participating in the poll, but also raising questions throughout the events. If you'd like to hear more about energy efficiency technologies, then remember to go and follow Njord on LinkedIn, and don't hesitate to reach out to the team if you want to explore further on what is the right strategy for you and your fleet when it comes to maintaining a clean hull through the different technologies out there. Thank you very much for joining us at today's LinkedIn Live event. See you next time.